So I'm going to start with this one because it's very simple. Hand drawn, I'm assuming. With that, if that's a stencil, that is the deepest fucking stencil I've ever seen. Hand drawn, the biggest issue that I would say for you regarding quality on this one, the marker you used to draw that is thicker than the actual liner you used. So it's going to be hard for you to stay true. It's going to be hard for you to stay true to the actual stencil when that stencil is much wider and much thicker than. Can you call my dad back, please? Is much wider and much thicker than the actual liner you're using, because you need to commit to one side of the stencil rather to the other. So in any situation where your liner is fairly thin, make sure the stencil you're following is thinner, because then you could just ride the center of the stencil and stay true to the stencil. So the reason I think this didn't go as well as you might have wanted it to, on this left side, you did well. On the left side, you did well by sticking to the inside of the stencil. But as you went on that curve, Charter, got you.
Yeah, I got
here.
Just need a spot to plug them in.
Facts. I have a long report here, and this has a second.
Okay.
So I'll have you do that if you can open that.
Yeah. Sure. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. You stuck good on the inside of the stencil on the left side of the tattoo. So that line is the straightest line you got in there, which is good. The second you went on that curve on the top left, once you hit that curve, you switched from the right side of the stencil to the inside of the stencil to the outside. So that's why it didn't stay true to that original curve, right? And once you made that transition, you again went from the inside of the stencil to the outside. So that is essentially going to make it's going to make it way more difficult for you to have a straight stencil or a straight tattoo when the stencil is much thicker than the actual liner you're using. So that's my recommendation on this tattoo specifically. Smaller stencil, not smaller, but thinner stencil if you're using a thinner liner. When the stencil is thicker than the liner you're using, you're always going to run into issues staying true to the stencil because you have too much play, too much wiggle room, essentially.
Just kind of stick to a side of the line.
Yeah, stick to a side of the line. But if you switch from inside to outside, you're shifting the whole design. So if you stick to the inside, stick to the inside, whole way around. Don't transfer from inside stencil to outside back to inside, because now you're doing what's easy, not what's true. All right, so that's what I recommend. And this is also by Damien. This is the stencil.
Yeah.
Going to fake skin on this one, I would say you need way more time with the machine and stick to fake skin for right now so you get used to the machine. When you are doing it seems like you're not confident with your line work. Do you approach it confident, or you just kind of approach it like, let's get it done?
Confident.
Say again?
Stay confident.
Confident? Good. Stay confident. Try and gain a little bit more confidence through repetition. All right? So what I would want you to do is run straight lines and run circles. All right? You don't have to do one pass, but what I do want you to do is practice feathering your line out and then feathering it back in. And if you don't understand exactly what I mean by feathering, if you're tattooing and you're doing any sort of line, right? Let's imagine this right here is the skin, all right? That right there is the top layer of skin. This right here is as deep as you can go, all right? So if that's where you are, the line that you are drawing is going to be, let's say you enter the skin here and you exit the skin here, okay? When you draw a line, when you get close to the skin, what you're doing, I was doing that. What you're doing is you're entering the skin soft, hitting depth, and coming back up, right? So that is what it should look like, right? If you're coming in like that, yeah, essentially, like an airplane.
I was just about to say that, yeah.
Yeah, that was actually, see, shit like that, I can't connect in my fucking head. If you're running that, feathering or pendulum is kind of like an airplane going to land, aborting, and coming back up, right? It's that smooth swoop, right? So the easiest way I can explain it is, if this is proper depth, if this line is proper depth where it's hitting right there, anything getting into it right here, contact of skin right there to about right here, is going to be lighter than everything here, right? Because all of this is nearing and at proper depth. That's going to be a solid line. All right. So you feathering in right here, this line is going to be thinner. This line is going to be thinner than the rest. So it's going to look like this. And then when you exit, it's going to look like that. That is what your line should look like at this depth, essentially, if I could show a diagram. What you want to do when you're doing a line, and the reason I'm bringing this up is right in here, you have, actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to save this photo real quick. Or actually, can I mark it up in here? Damn right. All right, facts. Right here, I don't know if it's going to even, right there. Yeah, it's way thicker than I want it to. I'm sorry. Let me fuck around with this real quick. Right there, you're not connecting it all. Right here. Why is it that fucking thick? Yeah.
What size needle did you use, Damian?
Yeah,
That's with the 5 round liner. 1205.
got you. Okay, facts. So right here, you're not connecting. Right there, you're not connecting. You got that little runoff. See, I don't like how fucking thick this pen is. I don't know how to change it. Over there, you didn't connect right up top. And you have a lot of spots on the inside where you're not, it doesn't seem like you're confident pulling that line, right? It seems like you're shaking more because you haven't used the machine enough, right? And because you're so early in on it, because you're such a beginner in it, this is expected. Don't think that everybody popped out starting tattooing with perfect fucking lines. It's not how it goes. But what I do encourage you is continue repetition. Keep doing more, all right? So if you're doing this rows, do 5 more of the same rows until you get it perfect. Do 10 more, do 15 more, 20 more. Because what's going to separate you from anybody else in your position is how willing you are to keep repeating and doing the same thing over and over and over again until you get that good. The only reason that I'm in the position that I'm at is because I was willing to fuck up more in order to gain and get better. I learned from my own mistakes rather than having a mentor, right? So nobody was here telling me what I'm telling you guys, right? So with these, see these separations? See that yellow mark on the left-hand side where it's, the leaf isn't touching the leaf?
Mm.
Okay, that's called a holiday. I was taught that that was called a holiday. Why? Couldn't fucking tell you. All I know is that's the definition that was given to me. When lines don't touch, it's called a holiday. You don't want to have holidays, right? So that holiday, that shit doesn't touch. Right there where that yellow dot is, those lines underneath don't touch. The one over there to the left, those don't touch. You have a lot of places here where they don't touch, right? You see around all those yellow dots where they don't touch.
It's called holiday because you took a break.
That's, you know what? All right, you know what? I'm gonna run with that. I like that. actually.
Or it's a holiday because there's no single holiday that are back to back to back. They never
Type of
connect
shit.
to each other.
They never connect. All right, there we go. I like, okay, facts. So they never connect. Okay, cool. I'm running with both of those. Holidays are holidays. You now know what a holiday is. And I now know the meaning behind a fucking holiday, which is awesome. So now knowing that you have that many holidays, the only thing I can say with the holidays is you don't have real guidance because you're not in a shop. Just understand from me, bless you, what I would tell Colin if he had holidays, it's just negligence. You're not going back and connecting those lines. That is the easiest fix that there can be. So there's really no excuse to have them. That's how I see that, okay? So next time, a quick fix to get the quality just a little bit better on this piece, connect the holidays, okay?
How long did it take you to do it, Damian?
Yeah, how long?
About an hour and a half.
Yeah, there should be no holidays. Take your time, go through it, make sure everything connects, right? That's step 1.
What'd you have
Now-
your volts at?
6.5, I think.
And then his stroke is good for lining because if I remember properly, it's close to a 4-stroke.
Mhm.
Nice. So that is probably the biggest, most obvious thing that I'm seeing, right? Everything else, it seems like you are having trouble with essentially blending lines in together. Like I could show you what's 1 pass, I could show you what's 2 pass, and there's also, you're 2 passing pretty much everything from what I'm seeing, right?
Mhm.
So the yellow dots are going to be holidays, right? You have holidays over there. You have a holiday here, you have a holiday there, you have a holiday there, right? Over here, oh, I already got that one, my fault. You have a holiday right here where it's not connecting to the leaf in the pedal, right? So that's just an easy fix. Just connect them. Take your time, look the piece back over when you think you're done, make sure there are no holidays, all right? Quick and easy fix. Everything else, it looks like there's two passes over here. Oh, can't even take that back. That's what's the problem. Right here. Two lines right there separate. That's not going to look good on skin whatsoever. Okay. So you want to be able to match that line to itself, especially if you're running a two pass, right? So another thing, I would say slow down. If something like this takes you 4 hours to do with a really good quality, take your time and hit those 4 hours. There's no timer and there's no rush. And the easiest way I can put this is if you rush now, you're going to pay for it later. So take your time with learning all the basics and the foundation of tattooing. So later down the line, in a year and a half, you understand how much time it takes to get those lines right. All right. Where if you go and you speed through this now to try and get on skin sooner, you're going to run into issues you could have solved and gain knowledge from now instead of later down the line on real skin. All right. So take your time with it. Right there where that dot is, you have two lines that don't connect, right? So you can see right there, you went off the stencil and then traced right back on the stencil. Okay. What I want you to do, where these blue dots are and where I'm putting the blue dots, these are all places that you could have essentially not, hold on, I'm going to get them all so I could just show you straight up. These are all places where you didn't blend the lines together properly. So it's very, very visible. It's very, very visible and easy to see where you did two passes. The goal in line work is if you need to run something in a second pass and essentially connect lines, you want to make sure you're doing it flawlessly. You want to make sure that you're connecting those lines and people can't tell that you connected those lines where you connected them. All right. So that right there is what's going to distinguish a good artist from a great artist right here. Answer for me, yeah, because I'm not taking the call right now. I hung it up. If you can call him back. Yeah. So back to this diagram, what you did is essentially instead of feathering through, you decided to run it more like this, which I see a lot, right? So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do the surface of the skin. I'm going to do the proper depth right there. And now when you are running a line, this is what a lot of people do when essentially they get the product that you had where it doesn't match up completely or it's a really harsh stop start, right? So what you are doing, essentially, if you're starting here and you're pulling out again, right over here, the line that you're taking, it doesn't look like this curve. It's not smooth like that. What you're doing is you're coming in, hitting depth, and then you're coming out, right? So when you do that, if you do that harsh start and fade out, if you do that again here, what you're going to see is something more like this, going thick. It's thinning out when you get out. And then once you start again, you're looking at thick and thinning out again. You see how that's not smooth?
Mhm.
Facts. So right here, if you get that smooth pendulum going, right here, right there is where it fades in, right? And then right here is where it fades out, right? So where it fades out, you want the next line to essentially start fading right before this point where it starts to fade out, okay? So you're going to duplicate that. You're going to run the same curve. When you run this curve, this is what it looks like, okay? So now that second line that you just put on top of it, you're fading in right at this mark. And by the time you hit where this is faded out, you are solid. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So what that's going to look like is your line is going to start here. You're going to get solid and you're going to go all the way through, pause, until it fades back out towards the end. So when you do that, when you fade out and fade in at the right spots, this transitionary spot, you can't tell is not a thick line. You can't tell that you transitioned in there. You can't tell where the first line started and ended and where the second line started. That makes sense?
Yeah.
All right. If that diagram helped, very happy that it helped. I'll create an actual like professional fucking diagram with rules at the bottom and I'll throw it so you have it to reference and look at. All right. But that is what I want you to keep in mind. So when you're doing your line, I want you to come in soft, find proper depth. Once you hit proper depth, RJ, calm down, come in soft, hit proper depth, hit that line and fade out. Okay. Just like a plane's taking off, you want to slowly fade out of the skin. And then once you get right back in, do the same thing. Do the same thing, just further in the line. So you're fading into that solid line where you already drew the line. All right.
Alright.
Fire. Did that help?
Yeah.
Beautiful. Perfect. So for you, I would say holidays, and just getting those lines a little bit straighter and a little bit more consistent going from one line to the next. Easiest way to do that, I would say practice straight lines and circles. Just basic shit. Even if you need to do that with a pencil to get your hand straight, because there are a lot of shaky lines in here too. To avoid the shakiness, I would say just get your hand a little bit more still. And by that, you can practice on paper, you can practice with the machine, practice with anything as long as you're using it in relatively real situations, in a sense. As long as it's a good application, you're chilling.